Hello, my name is Manish Gill and this is Fundamentals of Rust. Today I'm going to be talking about some of the basic concepts in any programming language that you will encounter, such as variables, functions, conditionals, and loops. And I'm going to be talking about how they are a little bit special and a little bit differently done in Rust compared to any other programming languages. Let's get started. So I have a program here. I don't have a program here actually. I just have an empty canvas file. Let's take a look at how we can change it. So first of all, we're going to start where we started in the previous video with the func main, fn main. And inside this function's body, we can do anything. And what we want to do here is we want to create a variable. Well, a variable can be anything like a number. So let x equals 1. So here, let is the keyword that we are using to declare a variable. That's how we do it in the Rust programming language. X is a variable name or an identifier, and then the value that is being put, and you can imagine this value jumping from the right hand side and traveling all the way into the left hand side. That value is 1. And there's a reason I very specifically mentioned such a vivid example of just assigning a variable, because it's going to be helping us later on. What happens with this value? Well, we can print it. Println, like we did last time around, bang. And here we can just say, okay, my value is something. And how do we make sure that we get the value x here? We can just use open and close curly braces and then just say x as the second argument to println, and finish with semicolon. So what happens, this is called string interpolation. Well, not specifically this, but it's kind of a form of it. My value is, so the x, you can imagine the value x being injected here. So that's what's happening. And let's build this program. So we can go to my tutorial, the terminal, and then just say cargo run. My value is 1. You might be wondering what cargo is. Cargo is a package manager that comes with the Rust toolchain installed. And if you've ever used Gradle or Maven for Java projects, or if you've ever used pip for Python projects, you can think of cargo as something similar, but it can do a lot more. It's your package manager as well as your build tool combined. So in this case, I'm using cargo mainly as my build tool. And when I do cargo run, or I can do cargo build, it will build my project. And when I do cargo run, it will build and then execute the project. The next thing we're going to be covering is immutable variables and mutable variables. What are the differences? Well, we had this value 1. Can we change it? That's a question. And the answer in typical almost all programming languages is yes. At least all the mainstream programming languages. The answer is yes, you can change the value. That's not a problem. What happens if we do something like this? X equals x plus 2. We're just incrementing our value by 2. And then new value equals x. Well, cargo run fails. And let's read the error. The error is cannot assign twice to immutable variables. And that's exactly right. Notice we never actually said anywhere in this program that the variable x is immutable. That's the default. So in Rust, all variables are immutable by default, and it's the mutability that is the exception to the rule. And so you have to specify your variable as mute. Let mute x, and this tells the compiler that, hey, this variable is safe for modification. If we don't do that, if we just declare a variable without the mute keyword, it's going to be immutable and you cannot change it. This is a great advantage of the Rust programming language, because you might accidentally change a value you never intended to change. And having immutables by default prevents that from happening. So now that we've added, let's add back our mute keyword. Let's go back to the terminal, and then let's just say cargo run again. And this time around, My value was 1 initially, and then I incremented it by 2 successfully, and the new value is 3, as expected. So that's immutable and mutable variables. I hope that concept was something people could understand. I'm just going to be writing a different function now and covering functions. Because functions are such an important part of any programming language, we end up writing tons and tons of them. So it's helpful to just get an idea of what functions can do. So functions start with the fn keyword, and let's write a function that does something. I don't know. Let's write a function that tells whether a value is even or odd. So I can say fn is even, and inside my brackets I can provide arguments, and my argument in this case will just be a number, and then I need to specify the type, colon, well, the type can be an 8-bit integer, 8-bit unsigned integer, which is u8, and is even or is odd. That sounds like a boolean, so our return value will be a boolean, arrow bool, and then we can start the function body. And inside the body, we can have a simple condition that says if the number modulo 2 equals 0. This means if the number is evenly divisible by 2 with no remainder left, well, return true because the number is even. Otherwise, return false. Notice there are no parentheses that in most programming languages you would add something like this, parentheses, but I didn't add that. That's fine in Rust. And now that I have this function, I can call it. I can call it right here. Is x even? And then I can just say is even x. And then let's see what the compiler says. Cargo run. Well, x is not even. The answer was false. So our function is also working successfully. What's the next topic? Well, we've covered function, and we've also covered conditionals. We can have if, else if, and those work very similarly. So we can also just say else return false, although that's a bit redundant because we don't need to say it like this, but we can. Yep, it still works. Let's go back to simplifying it. And now we can cover some loops. So there are 3 different keywords for loops in Rust. So one is the loop keyword. That's right. Rust has a loop keyword, which is, I think, unique, but I don't know. There's the while keyword and there's the for keyword. And these two, most people, I think, are familiar with. But let's just look at the loop first. So let's get rid of our is even. Let's get rid of the body inside the main, and let's start fresh. So we can say loop and then start a body, and inside that body we can just say, okay, print I am inside the loop. And then actually let's just also print the iteration number. So iteration I. And of course, because we are assuming a variable I, we need to declare it. So don't forget the keyword mute. Let mute I equals 0 because we're going to be starting from 0. And then after printing it, we're going to be saying I plus equals 1. So at every iteration of this loop, we are printing. Are we breaking this loop somewhere? I suspect we are not. So this loop is going to be an infinite loop. And let's see what happens. Cargo run. And as you can see, the loop is running non-stop. It's not going to end. It's never going to end. So let's just cancel it. Yeah. Once, tens, hundreds, 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, million. It was able to do 7 million iterations before we stopped it. Now we can do something different, and we can do, let's say we want to limit this, and we can use the while keyword here. While I is less than 5. So I'm still using the same body of the function, but I am limiting my loop to only print 5 times. So it's going to start from 0, it's going to increment by 1, and it's only going to execute until this condition is true. And the moment this condition stops being true, the loop is going to break. So let's see this in action. And there you go. This time We only had 5 iterations of the loop starting from 0 and ending at 4. What is the for keyword for then? Well, typically we want to use the for keyword while we are iterating over a collection, but we're going to be talking about that some other time. That's it for now. My name is Manish.